1, 2, 3, 4. FWA, 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 FWA.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Nothing and Like It. Thankfully, the only podcast to chronicle the Frontier Wrestling Alliance via its appearances on television. I am your better, best forgotten host, Kieran Lefort, and joining me as always, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's Andy Ogden. Andy, how you doing?
Hello, my boot scooting baby. Not doing bad.
And you've stolen my intro for Eddie. Here's Eddie Sideburns. How are you?
I'm trying to think of a step song now. Tragedy, something like that. I don't know.
You see, that was a cover. I wasn't going to go with that one.
Oh, and I've actually went to see Steps live, and I can't remember now. You put me on the spot here.
There were 4 songs you liked, and that was it.
It'll come. I'm gonna have to think. This is now stuck in my head.
Are you going to
now.
spend the whole of this show trying to think of step songs?
I may actually find the set list of the time I went and saw them. So yes, that's going to be stuck in my head now. Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
All right.
I'm feeling really good.
Good. Well, while Eddie is looking up step songs, as you will have seen from the thumbnail, we're back in interview territory today. And our guest is...
the mister who kissed your sister. The brother who scored with your mother, Andy Ogden. The monk of funk. The altar boy of sexual joy. Ladies, no need to run and hide. My ass is a spaceship. You want to ride? Duh. Feel good.
Amazing. It's like being in the Morecambe Dome 20 years ago.
Oh, I'm getting emotional.
I've been to a Steps concert, you know, as well. Maybe
Can
it was
you
to say
remember
what
any
is.
more step songs?
Well, do you know what I can't? But what I can say is this: Faye, she waved at me at the Steps concert because I waved at her for about 2 hours straight until she waved back, and I got it. I secured the wave. Maybe we were at the same one, Eddie Sideburns.
We might have been. We'll need to try and put our heads together and figure out wherever we were. But that gave me chills. That intro, what a joy!
It's been a long time in my back pocket. It's not come out. It had mothballs on it. That introduction.
So we've established you're a Steps fan, but I'm going to hit you with our usual opening question. How did you become a wrestling fan?
Oh, born and bred, aren't we all? Aren't we all born and bred wrestling fans? Well, I grew up with when you go visit your grandma on a Saturday and World of Sport was on the TV. So that was where I did most of my wrestling watching. Then you go on holiday to Butlins and you see all the wrestlers in Butlins. And then we got Sky, but we didn't get I think wrestling was on the movies initially or something like that. And it was all scrambled. So I used to watch the scrambled TV screen and just try and work out what were going on. And then my dad, every so often would go, oh, there was some rubbish wrestling on ITV last night. I recorded it for you. And it would be like Ric Flair. It'd be like Ric Flair in like WCW or something. And then that's just it. And I always said, that's what I want to be. I want to be a wrestler. And when you're 5'8", coming from the northwest of England, it's a pipe dream, that, isn't it? But things can change, Kieran. You know,
Apparently so.
Yeah, cosmic comets can glide across your solar system and lead you down the path to the squared circle, and that's what happened with me.
And what was your particular cosmic comet? Was there one inciting incident?
Do you know what it was? It was. I have to say that it was all thanks to my girlfriend at university, because I spent my first year at university drinking and eating. And I was a state. I was a mess. And then I started going out with a girl who was very into fitness and a vegetarian. And so, I just did whatever she did. I got in some kind of shape where I was like, oh, I'm pretty healthy now, aren't I? And then when I finished university, I just thought, well, why not? Why not just see what's going on? Because that was 2001. And it was still embryonic. I say it's embryonic. The sort of the new arrival of British wrestling after joint promotions and all that sort of had faded. And I'd heard about this website. You may have heard of it, called Google. And so I went on it. I've said wrestling schools in the UK, and there were about 5 schools, of which Mark Sloan's one in Portsmouth was one. But the closest ones to me was one in Stoke-on-Trent called the Camp of Pain. run by Chris Curtis. And on his front page, it was just him covered in barbed wire. I thought, perfect. This is where I want to go. This is where I want to go learn how to wrestle.
This man knows a good hammerlock.
Do you know what? That was pretty much the wrestling training was pretty much all, technical wrestling and learning how to bump. There was not a lot of the old, these are the 7 steps and all that sort of stuff. It was just technical wrestling. This is how you wrestle for real in case somebody tries to shoot on you, and learn how to fall properly. But let me ask you 3 a question. Who do you think was also there with me at the time, who you are all familiar with, who would be cited as my second trainer, I guess? Who do you think that might be?
It's that area. I was thinking Sticks, if it mentioned of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not Sticks, but he is a pain. You were right, Andy. No, it's somebody who you've talked about just on the last show, 5-star Mark Belton.
Oh, really?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
how far into the business is he at this point then?
So he was, let me just say this, because I know you've had some comments about Mark. He was a cut above at the place where I learned how to wrestle. Absolutely. And he was this guy that was doing a lot of the new American independent style. I remember one time he called a pile driver on some mats and he made me take it. And I'm like, Mark, I don't think this is a good idea. But he just gave it me anyway. And I think he'd done a few dates for FWA before I started even, but just like small shows. Like
he was on, we caught him at least once, maybe twice on the Portsmouth TV show.
Yeah.
And that's 2001, I think.
5-star Flash.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So
yeah, that's it. There's FWA all over the place. Wherever you look, turn out your pockets, lads. There could be FWA right in there right now.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Eddie and I found some, and then we asked Andy if he wanted a bit. So we are obviously FWA focused, and I had a quick look earlier. Your cage match only starts with FWA. What was your pre-FWA career, if you'd like?
The training school, the Camp of Pain, they would have monthly shows. So I started training in the September, I think it was, of 2001. January 2002, I was wrestling on their monthly shows. It was that kind of quick how you progressed there. Because, to be fair, you were wrestling in a working man's club in the middle of Stoke-on-Trent. It was a classic sort of British wrestling venue with the grannies on the stage with their walking sticks and feather dusters giving you a knock as you walk past. So it was a joy, really, that you were wrestling in front of a crowd that were automatically invested. So that was probably about 2 years. I was looking at my cage match earlier on, Kieran, because I know you like doing a bit of research, and I thought, I can't remember anything. When I look at cage match and it goes, you had this match with this fella. I'm like, I don't even know who that fella is. I cannot tell you anything about this match.
So I looked at it and I was like, there is no way I was at 5 of this man's first 6 matches. That doesn't seem right. And I'm like, you pop up in Greg Lambert's first book because you were one of the guys, along with like Johnny Fear, who he was like very keen to get in front of Alex and like get into the FWA. So I reasoned you must have wrestled somewhere else beforehand rather than just like knocking on Greg's door with your gear.
Yeah, it was. Greg mentioned it on when he came on, but it was Dan Reed's first show he did down in Ipswich, which was New Era Wrestling. I didn't even wrestle on that show. Mark Belton wrestled Johnny Fear under different names, but me and Johnny Fear's brother went down and we were just hanging around and talking to everyone, and we got talking to Greg. Greg had that website, Wrestling X. You remember WrestlingX.com? And it was a load of like articles he would post. So I just started sending him articles, writing articles for his website, and he would put them up. And then eventually they came to see us wrestle in Stoke-on-Trent. And I think it was me and Johnny Fear versus the UK Pitbulls. And it were a great match. It was, it was easy fighting the Pitbull there. It's easy. But then I think from that, Greg became a bit more sort of invested, and God bless him. Yeah, I owe a lot to Greg for putting me in front of people. And definitely he he probably there's a couple of factors. There's probably Greg, and then there's also the fact that Alex got very interested in Manchester. He got very interested in the school in Manchester, the FWA Manchester School, Future Shock, and they got a point where I'd reached a limit at where I was training, because Chris Curtis was very anti people working for other people. He was still kind of old school, and he was like, I trained you, you wrestle for me.
Mm-hmm.
So to get more opportunities, I kind of just, I moved training schools, really. And so I started going to the FWA school in Manchester, because that was closer to home anyway. And Alex became very integral to that at that point in time.
Mm. Were you the character from the off, or did you have a period of being a serious wrestler before digging out the neon green?
I wanted to be Dean Malenko. That is who I wanted to be. That guy,
the long lost cousin Dirk Feelgood.
Yeah, to me, he's just perfect. He's a tubby little guy who can do everything so well. So well. You just, Kieran, last episode I listened to, you said you love the mechanics of wrestling. That guy, oh my goodness. He's like a daydream watching him wrestle. But then I was trying to come up with wrestling names, and I had this big long list of wrestling names like Andrew Maverick, Andrew Ice, and all this sort of stuff. Because Andrew, I don't know, let's just ignore that name. But then I'm just like, oh, what about Dick Feelgood? And I don't, just like, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to call myself Dick Feelgood. And then when I come to the ring, I'm going to go, you know why Dick feels good today, right? And it was just like, I was like getting the attitude era in through my ears, like through osmosis. And you were filled with that kind of like, this is what a wrestling character could be. But thankfully, Chris Curtis went, I don't think we should do that. He was like, I don't think that's suitable for the family audience, so come up with something else. And it was actually somebody that I was living with at the time. He said, what about Dirk, like out of Boogie Nights? Then you could just do Dirk Feelgood. And I was like, I'm having it. That's great. But then I had no idea who Dirk Feelgood was. I was there having my first match after about 4 months worth of training. My music hits, I go through the curtain, and I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just going to be a dick. And that was it. I was just like, I'm just going to be an idiot, and I'm just going to be a fool, and I'm just going to have the best time. And that was Dirk Feelgood, really. It was, and so I think a lot of times in wrestling, you find a bit of a niche. And for a while, my niche was I'm the idiot on the show. That's what I'm going to do.
It was a time of serious wrestling and good matches, wasn't it? Particularly in the FWA. The only character the FWA really had was Simmons.
Yes.
And I won't say sore thumb. Like when you arrived, you stuck out like a neon green thumb. I described the character in my notes as charismatic neon goofball.
Perfect. And yes. I want to be a goofball. You know, I feel like, why did I want to be a wrestler? Well, it wasn't to pretend I'm hard or beat people up or go, look at this, mum. I've just beat this fella up, punched him in the gob. It was like, no, I want to be like a stuntman. I want to tell a story. I want to be a superhero or a supervillain, something like that. I don't want to really, I'm not trying to be me. I'm trying to be something that's inside me that I'm not letting out. And so Dirk Feelgood was that. And I think when you look at any wrestling show or any wrestling company, for me, I'm like, right, what's everybody else doing? Right, I'm not doing that. Let's do something else. I know a lot of you're obviously like wrestling connoisseurs. You see local shows, but I don't know. For me, how depressing is it when you see the fifth match on the show and it's just like carbon copies or guys doing the same moves, or it's like, come on, fellas. What's your selling point? What's your unique selling point? And I was happy to be the idiot. I thought it worked for me because I was an idiot basically.
Well, I think that's nowadays a lot of wrestling's homogenized and they're all trying to copy. I know the answer a lot of people gives. They all try to copy Will Ospreay because he looks cool on telly. Oh, if he's doing that, this will make me great. But no, you've got to have some personality that's away from that to stand out.
Yeah, and I think I'll look at people. Obviously, Will wasn't about when I was doing stuff, but I might look at like, say, oh gosh, I don't know, even Aviv Mayan. Yeah, I go, I'm not doing what Aviv Mayan does. Double jump moonsaults. No way. I trained we trained on mats. That's in Stoke-on-Trent. It was mats, and you were getting body slammed. You were getting suplexed. That's what you were landing on. You weren't landing in the ring. I thought I was going to be like WCW cruiserweight style wrestler. I'm 5'8", 5'9" if you're generous. And so I thought, yeah, that's what I'll end up doing. But I just had no training in it whatsoever. So I look at that and go, right, they're doing that. No way I can do that. So do I want to be a terrible version of that? No. And you know, in a way, is what just came naturally when you're in front of when you're out in the ring. What came naturally was just talking to the fans, having a laugh, being the goofball, Kieran, and just letting people beat me up. That's fine. I don't mind that. You know, it's good fun taking these bumps.
I was going to say, hearing Dirk Feelgood say that doesn't work for me, brother, would sound like the most out of place thing ever in terms of the character.
But you know, it's funny I should say that, Eddie, because I said that quite a few times. But mainly when I was wrestling some person and they'd describe some move that I'd never seen before. And I used to watch independent wrestling, so I wasn't uneducated. I'd be getting me tapes like from the tape traders and stuff like that. But they'd talk about some move, and I go, "No, that ain't happening, mate. There is no way that unless you can sit me down right now and tell me how you've looked after my neck in this situation, we are not doing it." And I had a feud with Jack Xavier. Well, I say a feud, a mini feud after this run that you've just been talking about. And like all the lads like up in the Northwest, like Damon and Joey and all them, they were just having kins like, no way you're taking that X-Plex, Dirk, are you? No, absolutely not. Just not. No way. And I'd be like, talk me through it again, Jack. How are you doing this move?
Brilliant.
So when we covered your FWA debut, which was the virtual match in the Morecambe Dome, you said it was a pleasure to get squashed by him.
Yes.
Tell us about that match. What were your feelings beforehand? What was the process like of putting that together? How did he convince you to take half of his stuff? And how did your body feel afterwards?
I was genuinely giddy as a kipper, right? Because I think one thing to understand about the FWA is it was so aspirational at that time for people who weren't already wrestling there. Because right now, you know, you can be the blandest wrestler often, it feels like, in the world, and you'll get a WWE tryout. You know, it doesn't seem to take much. Then nobody was getting WWE tryouts. I mean, that was like ridiculous that you would expect that. So what were your two options? One, you could work for Dixon and do an all-star, and you'd get lots of dates and stuff. But I had a proper job. You know, there's no way I could wrestle Monday to Friday, you know, doing the camps. And I was lucky Dixon did give me a call at one point after I wrestled James Mason, and James must have put a good word in. And Dixon called me. I'm like, oh, I've got work. Can you come next week and do these camps in like Southport? No, I'm on call. I can't just change it. So FWA was my aspiration because they were the one that were making waves, making names. They were like, in Power Slam magazine, you know, they were Talk Sport radio. And so at that time, and it's not just, you know, that was a lot of people's thought process. FWA was a goal that you could focus yourself to. So the fact that I had a match there, oh God, I was made up. So I think it came 1 month after Unsigned, where I had a match on Unsigned, which is where they had matches from different promotions over the UK. So we had a match from our promotion in Stroke, which was called AIWFGB at the time. It had about 5 different names when I was wrestling there. That was the name at the time, I think. And so me and Johnny Fear wrestled on that. And then a month later, I was doing this squash match with Birchall. I was just absolutely made up. So and when I was talking to him, and Mark had wrestled Birchall, or he'd been on a tour with Birchall, so he was just saying, oh, he's a great lad. You know, because you look at him, you think he's going to kill me, this fella. But then Matt's, oh, he's so nice. He's such a great lad. And there was that story, was it you, Kieran, who said last time about how he came down and he was talking about what favorite tea he had with your girlfriend or something. Yeah. That's how he was.
Yeah, he was like just gentleman, just walking around in his flip-flops, drove around 05. Yeah.
Such a beautiful face. The floppiest of hair, I think, when I wrestled him. Gorgeous, gorgeous man. And I'm just like, Paul, just kill me. I'm all right. I think the thing that I always was good at was knowing what my job was in the match. And my job in that match was just to be killed and to make Birchall look amazing. And I probably made a bit of a mistake and said, look, I'm never getting up. If you hit me with something, I'm going to act like you could pin me at this point. And I probably, maybe should have fought a little bit more and moved around a little bit more. But I was trying to be respectful to him. I was just like, nah, you killed me now with that clothesline. That's it. You could pin me if you wanted. But obviously he keeps picking me up and dropping me on my head and stuff. But I had a brilliant time. They let me do that promo. I got to act like a fool and slap Birchall in the titties. And
makes a good noise when you hit him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? And I look back at that match with such fondness because actually it looks like I'm trying to hit him. You know what I mean? It feels like that is I'm not being soft. He's not being soft. And I managed to get myself, it felt like I got myself over by without really doing very much. And then, when they showed that on the wrestling channel, I didn't have Sky or anything then, but so where I work, they have like, or I worked at the time, they have a mess. So like, it's like a common room where people can just go and relax and stuff. So it was like whatever time it came on at night, and I went from my house to the mess and I sat down and people would be coming in during their shift and like, sit down, I'm about to get killed by this big fella on the TV. So I got like about 10, 15 people all sat down watching me get absolutely annihilated by this fella whilst I was wearing green spandex. Because that is not an opinion anybody had of me before that point in my place of work.
Although it was a dark match, your match with Colt Cabana at British Outright Supreme, which obviously we've just covered, must have still been a reasonably big deal to you. Tell us about that and how you felt.
Yeah, that's probably certainly at that point was the biggest match I'd ever had. I mean, in terms of like what stories I've been able to tell in other promotions like GPW, which became my home promotion afterwards, there's been bigger, more interesting matches. But if you talk about opportunity, and the great thing about wrestling Colt, I was having a laugh because Damon got asked to wrestle in that 6-man, and I'm like, mate, you are getting killed in that match. You are going to get a half and half suplex on your neck, and then you are going to get speared out your boots. Good luck with that fella. And then they're like, oh, Colt Cabana's sticking around for a little bit. Do you want to wrestle him? I'm like, are you joking? Yeah, I want to wrestle Colt. And Colt had he again had kind of been up in Manchester quite a bit beforehand, and he'd become good friends with Declan O'Connor, one half of the Manchester Massive. So we'd gone out drinking maybe once or twice. He'd come to the training school and given us so he'd had some input with Ricky Steamboat at the time. Ricky was in Ring of Honor, so he was like telling us all these things Ricky Steamboat had told him, and I was like, oh my goodness, I learned so much from even just these little conversations about how to move around the ring. Like, even in the comedy match, we do the crisscross, but even just like how to run the ropes like that in the crisscross and different things. So I felt like I'd won the lottery, that I got to be on this show and I was getting to wrestle Colt, which I knew would be a fun match. The problem came in that, I don't know if you remember this, Kieran, but the M6 just got shut. So we were coming from the north. We have to go down like the M6. It was shut. And we're like, oh my, like I'm a bit anal and anxious about getting there on time. So I set off like probably 5 hours early anyway. And I was still not going to get there on time. And this was before sat nav and mobile phones. Yeah. I had like an A to Z in my car and I was trying to read through the A to Z to try and find the way. And in the end, I'm like, I did have a mobile phone, but it was like one of them pay as you go, doesn't connect to the internet thing. And I'm phoning like Tommy Clarkin, who is, you might know as the original Jervis Cottonbelly, who wrestled in GPW as TJ Kane. And he's in Damon Lee's car. And I'm like, well, how am I going to the venue? And he's going, right, we've gone this way, follow this road. And luckily got there probably about 20 minutes before the show starts. So we planned that match in probably like 5 minutes. And, there was a comment about fans were coming in during the match. I think fans were coming in because we were late. And it was just all the problem with the traffic. That was my memory of it anyway. But I watched it back. I know some people, Andy, not you, Andy, weren't so impressed with that match.
No,
I know you. Oh, I know you did, Andy. Yeah. Some people.
I think I know who he's trying to have a go at there.
Do you know what?
We didn't say anything bad about it. It was absolutely fine.
Well, when I heard you talk about the rest of the show, I thought, oh, fair enough then.
Yeah, you did all right. Don't worry. You came out in the top half.
The benchmark.
Them top 3 matches, including the 2 dark matches, were the benchmark, and then it just
But I watched that back, and I was so happy with my performance in that. Like, and I think you did say like it felt like I was keeping up with him. And that's what I took from that. I'm like, I don't look out of place. I think I looked like that could have been a Ring of Honor house show or something like that. I'm not saying a big event, but like we could have had that match probably anywhere. And it did what it did. We planned it real quick. It was obviously going to have some comedy. And then, it's difficult when you've got Stevie Knight later on in the show and stuff. We don't want to do too much because Stevie's going to do a lot of stuff as well. So just, again, knowing your place, but the best. And being on that show and just walking around, and there's Terry Funk with no underpants on. Oh, and he's done an Asai moonsault in his match, and he can barely walk from the shower and sit down. I'm like, how have you done that, fella? How have you done this Asai moonsault, and now you can't touch your toes? And AJ Styles was on there, and that at the time, like you say, he was the shit. And so being on a show with AJ Styles. Oh, and let me tell you this: I heard this podcast is the D'Lo Brown Appreciation Show. Well, let me get on to that, because D'Lo is one of my absolute favorites, and he wrestled at Morecambe one time when I was there, and I paid for a photo with him. I'm like, come on, D'Lo, I gotta have this. And he was on that show, obviously, and me and Colt were sort of backstage after the match, and that was who we were talking to, D'Lo Brown. And Colt's like, "Oh, what did you think of that match, D'Lo? What did you think?" And his feedback was short and sweet. He goes, "Yep, I enjoyed it." I'm like, whoa, he enjoyed it. He liked it. So, I mean, just at that point in my life, I was living the dream in a way, because it felt like I was getting good fan reactions. I was having a good time. I thought, well, maybe there's opportunities here, because I think I saw my spot on the roster as being like the goofball, like you said, the idiot, and who doesn't need one of them on their roster? Santino Marella, you kidding me? There's opportunities everywhere. I mean, look at Chelsea Green now. You want Chelsea Green on a show. You want to at least see something at some point, and I felt like I could play that role.
I was going to say about that match. We asked him last month, and he couldn't remember what did Ben Corrigan say to get you to the response? At least I wasn't dumped by a hat.
Yeah, the great thing about Ben is he's always there. And he wore that ridiculous hat for such a long time. Andy, was that before you? Do you ever see him with you?
Before I ever met him on the dance floor of PCW, we didn't have the hat then.
I mean, what a plonker. But that was the first time I think I'd seen him without the hat at the show. And I think he said something like, I think he was chanting, "Kermit, Kermit," just because I had green tights on, I mean, come on. And then, and it did take me a few seconds to think of something to say back to him. I'm not always the sharpest, but it was just before the match we got going, and it was Colt's reaction. Colt reacted first, and he acted like it was the funniest thing in the world. And I think that just gave me this kind of like, oh, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time now. And that really kind of set the tone. And I think you can probably see that we're having a little chat up most of the time through the match. We're just kind of talking to each other in that kind of like fake rivalry type way, but also wrestling Colt at a time when he was in love with British wrestling. So all you had to do was stand still. literally, I'm going to stand still and let you move around me, and you're going to look amazing, and then I'm going to fall on my butt. And it's just the easiest match, and a lot of fun.
Did you hang around for the rest of the show?
Yeah. Do you know what I did for that show, Kieran? I bought official Dirk Feelgood, out of the ring uniform. So I bought a bright yellow shirt with flared collar and a green velvet jacket, and I just walked around backstage like that, and just trying to talk to all the good wrestlers and just have a little chat with them. I was a little bit jealous because I was obviously going to have to drive home, and a lot of the other sort of trainees from Manchester had these good seats and were just having a good time drinking beer. But I mean, they weren't wrestling Colt Cabana, were they? Hey, Colt Cabana.
Oh,
At British Uprising.
Oh my God, it won't go away. I got, this is breaking the fourth wall a bit. I got a voice note from Sean Herbert the other day of him singing a bit of that song.
Amazing.
I reckon with enough people, we could put together a cover. I'm not joining in. I'm not a singer. But anybody who wants to can.
Listen, I've heard you, Kieran, on this show. Surely.
Aural Hallucinations.
But I get what you were kind of saying. Like, it perhaps wasn't as funny as you would have liked, and maybe. Oh God! No. don't want to be in this seat. I think it's difficult when you have two comedians in the ring at the same time. Like, I very often the comedy matches I like have a straight man. But it's a perfectly fine match. Like I said, it's in the top half of matches on that show.
I think as well, Dirk makes a really good point, and it kind of makes me rethink how I thought about it with the fact that Stevie Knight is on the show,
absolutely.
And he's going to do it. And,
yes,
the Boogie Nights should have been a thing, but, or the Feel Good Nights. There's numerous names. We should have made money here.
And me and Stevie got on really well. Like, we had that match. I mean, and also, for the sake of clarity, I'm probably like the third oldest person on that show. At that point, at that point, I'm 26 years old.
Yeah.
And Stevie Knight is 28 or something around that time. So we were quite similar in age. Obviously not experienced. Stevie was much more experienced than me, but we had similar sort of wrestling characters. We had that match together and had a great time. And then, Stevie became such a big deal in Morecambe, and Morecambe was kind of like our spiritual FWA home, really. And so we were on lots of shows together and struck up quite a good relationship. I'd have loved to have been a tag team with Stevie, I loved it. We would have had the best time. And I mean, I get why you went with Mark, but I mean, we would have been better, right? We would have been better.
I mean, I remember that match you had where it was the purple. We call them the Purple Cobras here, and it was you and DDL. And it was weird seeing you as a kind of pseudo face, given the fact that before you were a kind of heel in terms of that. But it was, the Feel Good Nights. They only lasted one match, I think. So.
They did, and that match with me and DDL against Mark and Stevie. I mean, again, I knew what I had to do. I was a jobber in that match. That's what I was, and not like. And Stevie was the comedy. So really, I was just there to get some experience, take some bumps and that sort of thing. But I remember I was really pleased when you talked about that and you said, I like Dirk's House of Fire. One of you said that. And it made me smile because let me tell you who hated it. Mark Sloan.
That noted sense of humour, the specialist Mark Sloan.
We were talking beforehand, and we're going, all right, Dirk, you can have the House of Fire. Right, okay. What do you want to do? And I'd been watching a lot of Shawn Michaels, and I was looking at the way he did things. And if you look at a Shawn Michaels House of Fire, it's so simple, but it's like somebody runs in at him and it's atomic drop, bottom on the nose, body slam. And it's all nice, simple, quick stuff, but it's the charisma. It's how you do it. So I was like, come in, give you atomic drop, clothesline, and it's all really basic stuff. And obviously Mark's trying to get you in some kind of ridiculous spider stretch and drop you on a brain buster on both of his knees from the top of the apron. And I've explained my House of Fire, and he just looks at me and he goes, well, that's going to be rubbish. and I've got this memory. I don't know if it's a real memory, but I got this memory of like Stevie there smoking a cigarette, just going, fucking let him do it. I think I probably made that last bit up in my head. But Stevie didn't give no monkeys. He didn't care.
Yeah.
For the character, it feels really right that he would do that. Just go, well, let him go.
Let him do what he wants, kid.
So it's not a secret that outside of wrestling, you have a proper, respectable career as a doctor. How have you found balancing the two, and has being able to self-diagnose injuries save you a lot of time and hassle? Also, how many GP by day, grappler by night, local newspaper articles have been written about you?
Less than they wanted to write about me, because I stopped doing them after a while, because it's like, oh, I'm so bored of this. So bored of it. But you're right, Andy. I have a real job. And I would remember, like, when I was learning how to sorry, that sounds so dismissive of wrestlers. Wrestling's a real job. But at the time, British wrestling did not pay.
Yes.
You see, there had to do another job. So I would go to my camp of pain on the weekend, and come back to work on a Monday, and I have a black eye, and I'd be walking with a limp, and thankfully everybody was so understanding. Like, my bosses would just be going, "Oh, good weekend, was it? Yeah, good, yeah."
Mm-hmm.
And I get away with it. And I was a junior doctor at the time, so I was doing a lot of night shifts, weekends. And like, if there was a show on the weekend, people would swap with me to let me wrestle. And my first ever match, like, a load of my colleagues came down to watch it. I mean, it's not far; it's like an hour's drive. But they came on their Friday night to a working man's club in Stoke-on-Trent to watch me wrestle for 3 minutes. So people have been really supportive. I've never really wanted to bring the doctor side of things into my wrestling. I never really wanted to do that. I mean, that should be obvious. I call myself Dirk Feelgood. I didn't want to do anything like this. But, like, I also recognize that it was associated with opportunities, and mainly from Alex Shane's perspective. And so Kieran's obviously talked about Alex quite a bit. But me and Alex got on pretty well, to be honest. And I think, again, we were similar ages. I had a car and I could drive, and I had disposable
That's why
income.
Alex likes you.
Yeah, and I had Kieran, I'm not denying it, and I had a disposable income. So all of these things were probably ticking some boxes in Alex. But I had life experience, and we would have good conversations and stuff. But you always knew that with Alex, he was working something. And I think when you're kind of, I just, again, not meaning to sound derogatory, but when you're a normal person, you can see it. And so there's probably a lifespan, a finite lifespan for how long the relationship lasts, because there's only so many times you can feel like he's asking you to do something that you don't want to do. He is very good, Alex. I will say, he will give you stuff in return. He will promise you things, and he will deliver those things. Maybe not Kieran's wage, but
I was going to say, usually not money, but
yeah, no, not necessarily money, but like matches. So, like, for example, you collect Joe Legend from the Wirral for me. And by the way, we've got you a match on this card against this person. Oh, okay, fine. But I'm not naive. I understand what's going on there. I don't even know why we started talking about Alex. Why did we start talking about Alex?
Well, we were talking about real life, like balancing the job and
So Alex really wanted to push the doctor stuff to get publicity, and I think obviously Greg's in journalism. So the two combined are like, let's get this in the paper. Let's promote some shows. So we did some various newspaper stuff, and I think it may have been leading to Uprising. I'm not even sure. And then I was on Granada Tonight, Sandy. You know Granada Tonight? Yeah.
And all that, yeah.
Yeah, so the local R6 news show, and they came to my work when I was working on the wards, and they watched me examine patients and film that. And then they did a terrible interview, by the way. I was just like off my face. I was like, I don't know what to say to this ITV person about this. And so they really liked that, and they wanted to push it. And I think it culminated in Richard and Judy filmed a segment with me. So they came. So this is classic Alex. They'd organised this thing. They were going to do this segment on Richard and Judy. It was like their show they did on Channel 4 at like 5:30 or something. And it was going to be about me being a doctor and a wrestler. And so they came down one weekend we were doing I think it was a Future Shock show, which was, I think, still FWA Manchester at the time. And they came down to the training school, and I think James Ty was there, Alex was there, and one other FWA wrestler who I can't remember. And they must have filmed me drop kicking James Ty in the face 20 to 30 times. And poor James, he was like, "Oh, I can't. Oh, this shoulder's a bit sore now, Dirk. A bit sore." I'm like, "Oh, I can't help it, mate. I've got to hit you in the shoulder somewhere, haven't I? Rather than your face." But so we did all of this, and we're filming these things and doing little promos. And before that, they'd been to my work and done we just walked in on a Saturday. I don't think we'd asked any permission, and we just started filming in the entranceway. And then one point, Alex pulls me over and he goes, "How much are you getting for this?" I said, "What are you talking about? I didn't set this up. You lot have set this up. I've just gone along with the thing." He goes, "Yeah, but I'm getting about 100 quid. James Ty's getting 70 quid. I've told them they need to pay all the guys." Like, "Well, I'm not getting anything from it. I'm not getting anything from this." So I think they'd arranged it to get publicity, and then all their mates got paid. I was just doing it. And then got nothing. And in the end, it didn't even get shown on the TV. I was sat there waiting for it to come on, and it got bumped for a guy who collects whistles. And I'm like, "This isn't me, this guy. I don't have any whistles."
Doris should count himself lucky then.
And there's poor James Ty with a bum shoulder, like, fucking hell.
What, 70 quid?
Yeah.
You know? And we'd gone out the night before in Manchester, and I was looking dreadful, absolutely dreadful. Like, all of us had gone out. I think like Alex, Declan, Joey, everyone like that at the training school, and probably whichever FWA wrestlers were up. And I looked a state. So they probably just saw the state of my face and like, there's no way we could show this at 5:30 on a Thursday.
Oh. So what is the Dirk Feelgood character today? So what's kind of changed since all this obviously, neon green, is that still in? Is that completely gone?
The green is gone. I mean, Andy could probably tell you what the current Dirk character is, because he does come to the shows that I frequent. But what I really always wanted to do with Dirk is do like Jericho does and just evolve the character and not always be the same person. So I did. So after the idiot phase that was seen here in FWA, we did do the doctor phase, which was not successful, and there were lots of reasons it was not successful. One of the reasons,
just quickly, sorry, Dirk, just quickly with that, was it more so how much input did you get in that doctor character, or was it more so Alex kind of telling you this is kind of where we're going, or the FWPO thing, this is where we're going with it, and you don't really get much of a say?
Yeah, it was more the latter, because I would not have suggested it because I wouldn't have wanted to do it. But equally, at the same time, they said, we're going to give you a push. We're going to give you a valet. You're going to be in Broxbourne. So the first show I was in Broxbourne, and that was like, well, that's where the FWA is, right? So I was a bit like, oh God, I'll do it. And I gave it my best, but it was I don't think a wrestling doctor just works. I remember I wrestled Simmons as Dr. Dirk Feelgood, and I had kid fans chanting, "You're not a doctor" at me. "You're not a doctor." And I'm like, "Do you think this guy's a butler?" He looks like a snooker player. I actually am a doctor, so shows what you know. But it just doesn't work. It doesn't work, because who wants to cheer for a doctor? No one. No, I don't want to go to a wrestling show and there be like a GP trying to wrestle. Get out. Get off the stage. And then, like, if you're trying to be an evil doctor, well, that's fine. That can make it work. But then you have to be kind of pseudo-intelligent. And I didn't want to be pseudo-intelligent, right? I didn't want to do that at that time. But I gave it a go, but it didn't work. And then from there, really what happened was I did figure out how to do it, how to be how to be smart and still a fool. But took the doctor out of it, and eventually, most of my work, Eddie, most of my good work has been in GPW Grand Pro Wrestling, and I developed this evil mastermind character that was, to be fair, I was really happy with. I think that really, really worked. And now I am another idiot again. I am an idiot in a suit this time, and I am a social media manager for some wrestlers. Feelgood Media Limited in Grand Pro Wrestling. One Martin Kirby, who's a joy, always Martin Kirby, one of the best wrestlers this country has right now, can do anything. Melanie Price, who managed me when I was a wrestler, so it's nice to manage her, and Chase Alcala, who's again, I'm so lucky that they're all amazing, but then they get lumbered with me in my stupid suit, making them all look like, again, idiots. So
Martin Kirby with his hair transplant and the turkey teeth. What a
so good. When Martin goes all in, he goes all in.
yeah. I was going to ask. I like a good pun name in a wrestler, and having trolled through your cage match record, I noticed 2 other medical related gimmick wrestlers you spent time with. James R. All Better,
Yeah.
do James Carr, JC Thunder, and
Yeah.
Steffi Scope. Have you any memories of those?
Oh yeah. So Stephanie Scope was my valet. So she was Styx's girlfriend at the time. I think Amanda was her name. Kieran, is that right? Can you remember?
I think so. I remember her. She managed Styx when I was doing RQW, and he came out with her on a couple of shows. I think they were married for a while.
So she was. I don't know if they were married. They were definitely together. She was training to be a wrestler as well. So she was. Makes it sound absolutely awful, but she was like, "Here you go. Here's your valet. If you want to do this."
Let's say she was very much of a wrestling valet appearance. Let's go with that. She had that bit nailed 10 out of 10
of the time.
Yes.
And it worked well. But I was listening. I said that the doctor gimmick didn't work, but I really was trying my best, and I was trying my best to be both medical, an idiot, and also trying to because I felt like I had to step up my my character's sort of effectiveness. Like I had to be a bit more of a wrestler because it like I felt like I should be more of a wrestler. So I thought I was doing all right, but it was a bit rubbish in terms of like reactions perhaps. And then I was listening to Greg Lambert on his Morecambe Wrestling podcast, and he was talking about it, and he said, "Oh, well, that was never going to work." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Greg. Thanks for that faith in that gimmick." So I think it's like Dirk as a heel, that's never going to work. I'm like, mate, I was a heel most of my life, but anyway. So they paired me with JC Thunder, and I mean, what again? Lucky as anybody, because JC Thunder is another. In wrestling, there are so many cranks, like backstage, you just keep away from them. And so to be in a tag team with someone, again, who was normal, sensible, also, like the first time I saw JC wrestle, I liked him. I really liked him. I thought he had a lot of charisma, and he seemed to sort of know what he was doing. So to be in a tag team, we got put in a tag team basically after my singles gimmick failed. And I think it was, you talked about the FWA tag team lack of teams. And so we got added alongside Manchester Massive, who'd been there for a little bit. And that was basically it. We wrestled Manchester Massive ad infinitum for about a year. I think essentially before either they got bored of me or I got bored of them, the FWA, and I was just like, probably just stop doing this now.
So, obviously, our podcast is about the FWA. What do you think the legacy of the FWA is, both from the perspective of a UK wrestling fan and someone who was inside the business as well?
I think it's really integral, and I think one thing that I am disappointed about, Kieran, is that when we were doing all that stuff and when I was coming in to the FWA, I was so hyper focused on getting in with the wrestling that there wasn't a lot of talk about, and here's Kieran who makes the TV show. And
similarly, I for me, it was like that's Dirk. He's getting beaten up by Paul Burchill tonight.
Yeah.
Like, like I was just the guy behind the camera, and to me, you were described as he's one of the jobbers.
Yeah, which is true. And we'd kind of been told, sort of knew where the hard cam was, and, it was sensible. You worked to the hard cam and that sort of thing. So, but like the fact that Kieran wasn't brought to training sessions and talked to the wrestlers and said, this is what the shows are going to be like, this is what will be really helpful. You talked about the feedback he gave to was it Hayden Jack about don't do that, but they did it anyway. These sorts of simple things. The reason I went there like that, Eddie, to answer your question, is that I don't think without Alex, and without Alex wanting to make a lot of money, and without TWC and what Kieran did, I think probably we wouldn't, the renaissance that we have experienced in a way. I'm not sure it would have come as quickly. They certainly leveled the field for everyone. And you talked about how, like, Ben Hat Guy was talking about how when he was falling off from FWA, actually there was a lot of other options then. IPW UK, people wanted to emulate what FWA did. Not everyone, but like people like IPW UK, and then later probably Preston City Wrestling and people like that who would have the imports in, what was it, One Up Wrestling, 1PW there.
Yeah. These
were all, clones in a way of FWA, and without FWA, would Burchill have got his contract? And then when Burchill got his contract, the world opened up in a lot of wrestlers' eyes. And Burchill was, a freak of nature in a way, but like, it can happen. It can happen. And I do think that FWA is incredibly important, really, really important. And I'm very grateful to have been a small footnote in it. And just to have seen the machinations of it all, and to experience what it was like making a TV show, albeit from very far away. I was just on it and kind of aware about it. But I think it was really important for wrestlers to have something to aim for. And I think it was important for British wrestling fans to see AJ Styles, to see CM Punk, to see Colt Cabana in front of their eyes without having to win a raffle to go watch Ring of Honor,
Who could possibly win a raffle that may or may not have been rigged from the beginning, and then
only happened once, and we're not sure if it was meant to happen at all.
No, exactly. And I'm sure we all know Benno. Couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke.
No.
He deserved that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What do you think the legacy is?
So I was wondering, as you were saying that, had the FWA not been around when TWC was born, what would the contemporary British product on that channel have been? There wasn't one. There wasn't anybody else who was at the point that would have stepped up to it. WAW?
What was happening with Hammerlock at the time? Because they'd been on like the Big Breakfast and stuff, hadn't they?
Hammerlock was on its arse.
Yeah.
So their heyday, if you like, was the 90s. And their legacy is the people they turned out. Yeah. Alex Shane, Jodie Fleisch, Johnny Storm, Justin Richards, Mark Sloan, Paul Travell to various extents, Nikita. You can list off a dozen like great wrestlers that came out of Hammerlock.
Yeah.
But in the way you talked about Chris Curtis, Andre Baker was a very closed shop. FWA started and UWA started before that because people broke out of Hammerlock. Andre didn't want people wrestling anywhere else. They weren't going to produce TV. I've seen a couple of, I hesitate to call them commercial tapes out of Hammerlock, and they were just like basically fan cams, just like people holding camcorders in the audience.
I do think a lot of it is down to Alex's desire and will. And
yes,
it was not necessarily a one-man show. It was impossible, not a one-man show, but it was driven by him. And he had, lucky to galvanize people to that. But and it was, again, not naive. It was because he wanted to make money. But fine, that's what people do. That's, we think Vince McMahon doesn't want to make money. People want to make money. It's a business. There's nothing wrong with that. But he saw that opportunity to do it. And I think, Kieran, it is a real shame probably that I look back and don't recognize the work that people like you were doing, like at the time to produce the TV show. Because I
had no clue what I was doing. I was 24 years old with absolutely no idea. The longest thing I'd ever made before that point was 23 minutes long, and I'd never made anything for television.
Well, I think that's true of a lot of people there had no clue what they were doing, did they? And you said like British Rising 3 lost 24 grand. That shocked me. I didn't even realize that. I keep thinking I should have asked for more money, but now I know I wouldn't have got it. That is
even
crazy.
If they had sold it out, would they have cleared that?
Crazy, that, right? It's like, like, I mean, like Nintendo undersells their consoles because they're going to get their revenue back on games. But I mean, where is the loss leader or whatever you say in that? I'm not sure.
I think as well, you'd have been waiting in the queue way behind Kieran at that point. You might be ahead of the queue if you were waiting to get paid at that point.
Well, luckily, Kieran was asleep at ringside, wasn't he? So I'd have nipped
Kieran
in there.
was almost dead on that day. I'm amazed I survived that week. So this is not my therapy couch. This is yours. And while you're here on the therapy couch, is there anything else you wanted to talk about that we haven't touched upon?
Let me have a look at my list. I don't know if there is.
Oh God, he made a list.
I made a list.
No wonder he was saying this character's Chris Jericho, like number one armbar.
No, not really, because I mean, I suppose there's stuff that happens afterwards, like with the Doctor character and.
How long did that survive, actually? So I don't think we're even going to get to see the Doctor character because of where the TV cuts off. Mm-hmm. I think, was there a skit you did with JC and Nurse Blockbuster on the IPW versus FWA show?
There was, and that
right. We're not going to get to that for about a year yet.
Yeah. That broke me, that skit, because this is the peril, everyone, of being a wrestler who can drive. So that show, where was that show? It was like Kent or something.
Orpington.
Was that Kent?
Yeah, Orpington and Kent, yeah.
I knew it was in Kent. So we're travelling up from the northwest, and I've got Johnny Bloody Fear with me, who's, a mess at the best of times. Then I've got like both of the Manchester Massive and Greg Lambert, I think, in my car, and we're driving down. And all I'm doing is like a 2-minute promo. And I'm in pretty good shape at the time. I was up for doing something more. JC Thunder was a big deal in IPW then. And we did the whole promo. I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we just did a silly little match? He was on a losing streak, so maybe that's why they didn't want to do it, because I imagined I would have lost. But we drove all that way, did me little promo, and then on the way back, and we're leaving Kent at like whatever midnight, and I have to drop all these buggers off at their house and I'm dropping like everyone off at these different houses. I'm like, this is it. I am not traveling anymore for wrestling. I am going to do the Northwest, and that is it, because all people need to learn how to drive and drive me, because I'm fed up. I'm fed up. And Greg was like, oh, what are you talking about? What a great, amazing show. I'm like, Greg, you can't even drive. You can't even drive, Greg Lambert, and you're a grown-ass man, okay? And I'm doing the driving. So yeah, that promo did me in. We took a photo after that show, and I looked at it recently, and there's like me and one other person in gimmick, and everybody looks like they've turned up to like a fan convention. Otherwise, like, why didn't you just stay in your gimmick when we had this photo? Like, that would have been cool. All of us in our gear, but now you look like you've just gone to ask Thierry Henry for his autograph.
And you said you went into the Northwest, so that would have been like Future Shock and GPW in terms of that.
All those sorts of stuff. Yeah, Future Shock essentially is a bit of a training school. So at some point with Future Shock, you do kind of, they do move you on. Because they want to bring their sort of trainees through, which is good. But I always enjoyed wrestling at Future Shock, and Grand Pro definitely was where I did my best wrestling work. I had Johnny Brannigan, who's very like Alex Shane in a way. They both tell you exactly what they think. What the great thing about Alex and the great thing about Johnny is you're never unsure where you stand with them. They will tell you if something was crap. Or Alex gave me lots of compliments, and that was maybe why I liked him. He would compliment me. He'd go, I don't know what else to say to you, Dirk. You're doing a good job. I go, oh, thanks, Alex. We did have a match one time, and he was furious afterwards. We had one match, and he was so he chewed me out in front of everyone backstage, and partly because in my promo I said he was going bald, and bear in mind he was a heel. He was the heel, and I was the smart ass baby face. And he came back and he was like, "And don't mention my hairline because I'm going to be turning babyface soon, and I want to be." I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Oh." I was disappointed. Don't get me wrong, but he was like, "Oh, if that's what you're going to get annoyed about, mate, I'm not bothered." But also, the match wasn't as good as it should be, and that probably was at my door. So yeah, Johnny Brannigan. He would give me a lot of leeway, Johnny, to sort of. I've always known when Dirk should win, and I've always known when Dirk should lose, and I've always known like what the best sort of how to progress the story. And Johnny thankfully trusted me because I'm happy to lose. Who doesn't like putting somebody over and hearing the crowd pop and all that sort of stuff? So Grand Pro, I had a lot of creative freedom. Had a lot of good matches there. But yeah, that's the Northwest in a nutshell. A bit up in Cumbria a little bit with, the Naturous Boy promotion. Do you know that? Europe, yeah. So the Naturous Boys trained where I trained. So, we've always, again, got along really well. So when I was traveling, I would go up there. Beat Drew McIntyre quite a few times, as I like to point out to people. And he once asked me, he said, "How do I get in the FWA?" Well, you have to be good, Drew, I'm afraid.
Be shorter than the booker, start there.
I was going to say in Future Shock, did you get to beat up Chris Egan quite a bit? But I'm assuming you probably did.
Did I beat up Chris Egan? I've forgotten how many times I beat up Chris Egan. We used to beat up Chris Egan on a weekly basis. Chris won't mind me telling you this. So we would go down on a Thursday night when it was unofficial training. And what that basically meant was, how many times can you powerbomb Chris Egan? I'm currently wearing a gift from Chris Egan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he brought me this Jushin Thunder Liger t-shirt when he was Chris just knows everyone, right? And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going off to see Zack Sabre Jr. in Japan." I'm like, "Oh, all right." And then he comes back with these t-shirts. Got on in Chris. Chris is absolutely one of my best friends in wrestling. I love him to death. But I think I think the first ever Future Shock show, it was me and a guy called Ben Rage against Chris Egan, and oh god, I can't even remember who his tag team partner was. But I gave him such a big spine buster that I felt so proud of myself afterwards. And he was this 15-year-old boy, and he was wrestling in a white t-shirt and a white shorts, I think, at the time. But Chris, I tell you, he is a natural wrestler. Love you, Chris.
It was because we saw him it's because I saw him in the front row of the dart match. And I was like, oh, then he messaged me saying like he was one of the people who held, along with Matt Richards, who held back Bill Purman when he made his return, which is just wild to me.
Chris has been around for a long time. And to be fair, I think a lot of the pop that I get is probably just Chris Egan and other people around him cheering when I go out. I think that was probably it. I would just want to pass some feedback to you that I think that the podcast is excellent, and I really enjoyed listening to it. I think you're all very fair. Even when I get 2 stars out of 5 in a match that I believe Andy Ogden is a 3-star out of 5 match, at the very least.
I'll watch it again. I'll watch it again afterwards. I'll watch it again.
Even when that happens, I'm like, well, fair enough. Art is art. You interpret it your own way, and I truly believe what I was doing in that ring was art.
Hey, I definitely made some sub 2-star television episodes.
Well, and that's the other thing, Kieran, is you're very open and honest about things that you would do different, and it's very interesting to listen to in that. But I do think you've treated the product with respect and honesty, and I think a lot of, like you said, Eddie, James Ty, reviewing the show, I'm sure he enjoys listening because it's a great show. So thanks for doing it. I appreciate all 3 of you.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate you giving us your time this evening. Please tell our listeners where you can be found on the internet if you want to be found in public projects you've got going on, all of that kind of stuff.
Well, to be honest, I don't want to be found on the internet.
Fair enough.
A lot of when people add me on like Instagram, and I'm like scrutinizing this tiny photograph. Do I know who you are? Why do you want to see pictures of me? What's wrong with you? So don't try and find me on any of these places. But if you do want to listen to more of me, I do a podcast myself. It is not wrestling related. It is about movies. It's called The Movie Mixtape. I do it with an American lady called Marcy. She's an American lady. I'm a British man. We're the original odd couple. And what the aim of the podcast is, it's sharing movies that you love with another person, like the mixtape. You know, when you make a mixtape and you bang songs in there that are important to you. Well, it's not. So we're not doing random movies. It's all movies we love based around themes. So if you're interested, you can look for The Movie Mixtape wherever you do your podcasting.
Tremendous. Eddie Slideburns, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at KoadicXBest. You can find me on Blue Sky at Eddie Sideburns. The 5-star wrestling tournament is still going through. I mean, I've got to have a conversation with someone. Yep, he's raising his hand. Fire Racer.
Is the 5-star wrestling thing a bit, or is it real?
This is up there with one of our previous guests asking me via DM, is one of the other guys a promoter? I can't figure it out.
Oh God, it's a bit yeah.
It's a bit that won't die.
I should just respond to him going, we'll talk about it in the DMs later, Dirk. Yeah, it's a bit because 5-star wrestling one time, that old company years ago decided they were going to do what, 120 person tournament, and then the guy offered CM Punk $1 million to come and take part in it. And
you were 10 quid short of buying the trademark or buying the web address, weren't you?
The ring apron is currently held or owned by Styx, I believe. So I'm trying to figure out. One day I'll get bored and I'll go, I'll just see how much you would take for it. No, I just keep doing it as a bit because it was such a stupid gimmick at the time. You can find me on Twitter and on Blue Sky, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have Dirk Feelgood on this show. I honestly, from the intro, and he remembered it, I'm so overjoyed. So thank you so much.
And Andy, tell us about Graps and Claps.
Yes, follow my podcast, Graps and Claps on X at GCP Podcast 1. We've got recently the first 2 episodes of Mark Rocco's Tash, which is satellite wrestling on Screen Sport with myself and Kieran, where we've had a good time reviewing that. And also coming up, I'm doing the next episode of Shite. That's with Matty Edwards and Michael Amflet from What Culture, where we look at 2019 in WWEF and when Tyson Fury wrestled once. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Andy Ogden 1984 to check where I'm out on the piss.
Tremendous. As for the show, you can find everything to do with us at linktr.ee/FWApod. We are on Twitter, Blue Sky and YouTube at FWApod and Instagram at FWA.pod. As for me personally, I am at Kieran Edits on Blue Sky. Thank you very much for listening. Next month, more FWA adventures. And there's 2 things you can do about it.